What's going on, guys? My name is Chris and this is Regular Guy Training. Now, check it out. This is the TP9SF Elite. It's from the Canik series of guns, and this is not my personal handgun, first of all. This is Todd's from Red River Tactical. He decided that he was going to let me use this thing in a review. And first and foremost, I'm going to let you guys know that pretty much all the criticisms that I have against this pistol is pretty much me nitpicking for the most part, because this guy has been the following since I've used it. It's been both accurate and reliable. So there you go. Anything that I have as far as a criticism towards a pistol is in fact me nitpicking, and you can decide as to whether or not those are real things to you, meaning like real downsides to you. Now, out the box with the SF Elite, we have Warren Tactical sights with a fiber optic front. I really like these sights. They pop really well. And it's really easy to just pop up on target and be able to press the shot because of how clear that front sight post gets. 1913 style rails in here, which is great, simply because you can add whatever light or what have you onto the pistol itself, and it makes it a little bit easier for a pistol like this to integrate into the modern era, quote unquote. Your controls are ambidextrous to a point, because the slide lock and release lever is ambidextrous out the gate, but the magazine release is not. From what I understand, I believe these are reversible. Somebody correct me if they're not. So that's pretty much what it comes with out the box. There is a loaded chamber indicator here, sticks up very much like the XD. A striker, a cocked striker indicator, much more like the XD itself, and if it's charged you can see it. So you can see that pretty easily. The trigger in this guy is actually pretty nice. I can see that it took a couple of notes off of the Walther PPQ also, because that's your empty slack, and right about here is where it begins to stack weight. And not much further than that it breaks, about an 1/8 inch. Reset's pretty nice in it as well, because right about there is where we reset. So about the same distance it takes to break, it takes to reset as well. That's really nice. A lot of striker fired guns will have a reset distance quite a bit farther than the striker being released. So that's pretty neat. The magazines that come with this, from what I understand, are made by Metgar. I do have a slight issue with these magazines though, because they seem a little bit more susceptible to like mud and stuff like that, probably because of the 10 million openings. But at the same time, Glocks do the same thing, and the only reason why I was able to witness this, because it hasn't done any of this since I've been testing it. But again, Todd from Red River Tactical owns this, and he was present during my Pistol 1 class. It rained on us really, really hard, and it got really muddy really fast. And the problem is that really, really reliable pistols were starting to have problems, and this guy would not work well at all. And I suspect it's because these magazines are not quite as durable against like mud and whatnot as I would say better quality magazines out there, like Glock for instance, because it wasn't the pistol that was having issues. Anytime that it would fire, it would try to cycle properly, and it would extract and eject the casings in there, but every single problem that it had was a failure to feed, and I attribute that to the magazines themselves. So I'm not sure if you guys have a similar problem, but it is something that I've noticed. However, it did not happen to me while I was shooting this thing. Another thing that happened, I have shot about 2,500 rounds through this gun so far. Todd shot something like 700 rounds through his. Right around the 630-ish mark, 630-ish rounds, he had a problem with his trigger bar. It was bent to the point, it ended up bent to the point where he was getting on and off failures to fire, and then it went to consistent failures to fire. He had that shipped. Well, he called Canik's customer service and all of that, and they sent his pistol to an outsourced manufacturer for repairs and stuff, which is kind of weird, but since it's gotten back, it's run great. So I guess whatever it is, they fixed that issue. And apparently, according to Todd, when he called about this trigger bar being bent, it is a fairly common problem, based on the attitude that he was getting from the customer service rep that took his call. So, you know, it is what it is. But the thing is that he sent it off, they fixed it, and since then it looks like there's been about no issues whatsoever, which is pretty neat. The grips that come with the pistol, I like them a lot for the most part. You guys know my issue with polymer guns for the most part, because I hate the fact that polymer guns out the factory stop about halfway and, in my opinion, should be climbing the stippling all the way up into every part of the gun that your hand touches, but that's my personal opinion. But this isn't quite as bad. What I've noticed is that the gun sticks in the hand fairly well, and I don't have real issues with it as far as controlling the gun or anything like that, and especially since it's a 9mm pistol, again, no issues with it at all. Also, the grip texturing on both the back, front, and side straps are pretty good, so I have no real issues there. I have a rather serious issue, though, getting this guy to get into slide lock consistently, and it's mostly because I'm left-handed, and most of the guns that I own and have used a lot don't have slide stop levers or anything like that on the right-hand side of the gun. So I've had to change up my grip a lot, to the point where this portion of my hand is riding on the inside here, and my thumb is riding up here, which leads to my thumb just kind of dropping off the side here with almost irregularity, and still, whether or not I get the gun in the slide lock is kind of inconsistent, and I understand that that is a training issue, as well as the fact that, you know, because I'm left-handed and I could get as aggressive as I want on the side of the guns, I never had to really deal with that problem before. So that's me, though. A lot of guys don't have this issue. So again, it's not a big deal. If the gun doesn't go in a slide lock, it's not really a huge deal to me. I'll just press through it, get the click, go ahead and do the reload, and charge it. No big deal. Something I have noticed, though, is that the slide profile itself seems to be cut. The first thing that comes to mind for the most part is like a slightly altered XD. The way that it sits up top of this frame and the way that the frame flares out a little bit. And the recoil impulse is a little loopy in that I can feel the gun kind of doing this kerchunk type thing a little bit more than I've seen a lot of pistols in its class. Like, for instance, a Glock 19 or an M&P seem to cycle a lot smoother and flatter than this guy does. Is this a big issue? Not really, unless I'm trying to shoot pretty fast. I've noticed that I've had to slow down quite a bit with this pistol just to have the sights arrive on target a little bit faster. And you guys can check through other videos that I've done before, like the difference between videos that I've shot with a Glock 19 or an M&P or smaller slide guns like the CZ review that I did, and you guys can judge for yourself. I personally think that this looks like it has a little bit more violent of a recoil impulse, or maybe violent isn't the best word, it's more of a kerchunk-ish type recoil impulse, to where it feels like it's doing this more in my hands. Now, is this a big deal? No, I'm just nitpicking, but still, this is based on my mileage, so whatever. The slide serrations on this guy are adequate for what the job is made for. You don't really notice them very much, but I haven't like slipped off the gun, and I have shot this pistol on pretty hot days where my hands get real slick from like sweat and all that. And press checking, it's pretty easy for the most part. It's just, again, you don't really feel that they're there too well, even though they do catch on the hands. So it's not a big deal that I can't really feel them so long as they do their job. Now, really, I've pretty much gone through the entire pistol except for the disassembly, which is pretty simple. You're just going to depress the freaking striker, pull down on both tabs on either side, very similar to like a Walther PPQs. And once it gets off the slide rails on the inside of the frame, it comes right off. Only thing I've noticed though is that the slide rails themselves are very, very small. They're really small, like similar to a Glock 19s or something like that, and I'm pretty sure that they may have taken influence from that pistol, but to the point where it's a little bit easier to take off, and I'm not sure if that attributes to its recoil impulse and why it's a little wonky, but I'm not sure. It's just something that I've noticed. So something that I forgot to mention, putting this guy back together is slightly different than something like a Glock or a lot of other striker fired guns. This guy right here, your ejector, definitely gets in the way if you're trying to just throw your slide on like so. There actually isn't any room, and this kind of screwed me up for a little bit. So I had to actually look at it and see, oh, I have to plant the slide on top of the frame so that it just kind of meshes together. So rather than inserting the slide from the rear and then throwing it on like so, you would essentially have to insert the slide on top and fit it into the different grooves. And then from there it's back together. Something I noticed, it's kind of weird, but whatever, it still goes together just fine. Now, really, that's all I have. When I first started shooting the pistol, I noticed the following. Okay, I like the sights and the trigger's nice. Recoil impulse is kind of weird. That's about it. If you have doubts about picking it up, at the very least for a gun to play with and stuff, I would say go ahead. Personally, because of what I've seen in the simple pistol 1 class where I got really muddy out here, I would have a little bit of a hesitation on carrying the thing on day to day, mostly because I saw how the pistol magazines handled mud, which wasn't very good from what I saw. Like, other guns were starting to shut down a little bit, like Glocks and stuff, but even while dudes were pulling mud out of their Glock magazines, the guns were still cycling and the magazines were still feeding. So because of that little issue, I would avoid carrying this on a day-to-day. But over time, my opinion could very well change on this. Expect to see a long-term review on this guy. So that's all I got here. If you guys want to support us on Patreon, go ahead and check that out in the link in the description below. More $35 a month slots have been opened as of late, so you guys can take huge advantage of that. It's essentially for the price of 2 classes a year. You'll be able to take as many as you want for as long as you're in the program. If you have any questions or anything like that, go ahead and throw them in the comments box below. I try to get to questions as often as I can, but if you have an answer to somebody's questions and you see it, there wouldn't be any harm in one of my subscribers answering the questions, simply because a lot of dudes with good knowledge are in the comments section on this channel as well. If you want to join our little discussion page on Facebook, I'm going to leave a link for that in the description below. And remember, guys, a regular guy's firearm is the last defense against tyranny. Be easy.